Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another weekly live cast where we talk about politics, culture, theology, and anything and everything in between. I'm your host, Christopher Van Hall, author of Reborn Again, Crucifying Christendom and Resurrecting a Radical, founder of the Greater Purpose Brewing Company in Santa Cruz, California, a brewery that donates 30 to 60% of its profits to local social justice initiatives, and also pastor of the Greater Purpose Community Church in Santa Cruz. And today I have a very, very special guest for you. Today I've got Suzanne DeWitt Hall, author of Where True Love Is, an affirming devotional for LGBTQI plus Christians and their allies. And I'm excited to talk about the work that they're doing. Suzanne, how are you doing today?
I am doing quite well. We are on week one, day one, post second vaccination, so we're pretty psyched to
Oh,
be.
that's awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yep.
What house did you end up in? Are you Team Pfizer, Team Moderna, Team Johnson
Team
Johnson?
Moderna.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All
Moderna for the win.
right.
Dolly shot for the win. Are you?
Yeah,
Have
so
you
we're
noticed a?
pretty happy.
Yeah. Have you noticed a difference in your stress level since you've been fully vaccinated? Has things just kind of calmed down for you?
You know, we extreme isolated throughout pandemic, like right from the very since mid-March.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't because we're still maintaining kind of extreme distance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, after this next week is over, we'll kind of emerge from our cocoon a little
That's
bit more.
I did the same thing. I was isolated in an extreme manner because I have
Hmm.
autoimmune issues, and I actually
Yeah.
have quite a few family members that passed away from COVID-19,
Oh,
and
man.
so I was terrified, being a 36-year-old dad of three.
Mm.
And the moment that fully vaccination date kicked in, I think it's 12 days after you get your second shot. They say you're fully vaccinated.
Right.
Just my stress level, melted away.
I
I still
bet.
take precautions, but I never used to forget my mask in the car ever because it
Mm.
was just always on me. And now I'll like go to walk in a door and I'm like, oh, I left my mask in the car. So I've got a little bit more security than I had before. So
Right.
hopefully some weight is lifted off y'all's shoulder too. And we get through the other side of this thing in the next couple months. And I have hope that we
Yeah.
will. So, one of the things that we usually ask is, what is your favorite adult concoction? I guess we could have said vaccines today in the age of pandemic, but
Right.
it, if you're going to a bar, if you're out with your friends, my viewers would love to know, what is your adult beverage of choice, if it even is an adult beverage?
Well, I only really drink three things. I drink coffee if it's morning, water if it's not morning, and red wine if it's evening plus water. So
Oh, okay, there you go. What's your
cheap red
go-to
wine.
red wine?
Oh, whatever's cheap. I'm a big Aldi fan or Trader Joe's. So
Hmm.
their, Winking Owl brand is fine with me. I'm the kind of person I'm okay with like bad coffee and cheap wine. So
There is
I'm not
nothing wrong
very
with that. We're not.
discriminating about my beverages.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're equal opportunity employers when it comes to caffeine and alcohol here. So you're in
In
good
good company.
company. Yeah, we don't yuck yums here. So
Yay.
so Suzanne, we would love to know about your story. I mean,
Yeah.
what was your history with the church, with the faith? Where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up? What would you like viewers to know about your journey today?
Um, well, let's see. I wasn't raised in any kind of a faith tradition. My parents didn't go to church. We didn't talk about faith in any way. My mom was kind of spiritually hungry, so she, when I was a teen, did a lot of reading about. She took a transcendental meditation class, things like that. So she was hungry, but they weren't churchgoers at all. And as I grew older, um, I think I kind of inherited that spiritual hunger from her. Um, though I didn't go to church, the most I ever went to as a child was um, like Sunday school,
Mm-hmm.
vacation Bible school with friends
Mm.
and things like that. So that was, a little bit of exposure. And then in high school, I started dating a guy who was an Episcopalian, and I went
Mm.
to church with him fairly regularly because his family was extremely involved, and it was the expectation that he attend. So that started being my intro, and then we ended up marrying. And he wasn't into church, and I kind of went along with anything and didn't really know
Mm-hmm.
until I was pretty unhappy. It was a pretty dysfunctional marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
I was an unhappy, kind of broken adult for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started wanting to find a church, and started looking around. And then when my daughter, meanwhile, we had a couple of kids. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter started going to some youth group events at this Presbyterian church, and I thought I should probably check it out and make sure that, it seemed like an okay situation, okay people, and all that. It just seemed responsible to go and see what was going on just because it's a church. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I went on a Sunday, and I never stopped going to church. That was before 2001. It was before 9/11. Um, yeah, and so after that, that church blew up, had a split,
Mm-hmm.
started a church in a new movement. They don't like to call themselves a denomination, called the Charismatic Episcopal Church. And I
I
helped
didn't
get
even
that.
know that was a thing. Haven't heard of
It
that yet.
is a
Wow.
thing. So well, at this point, it's probably about 20 years old.
Okay.
The idea behind it was that it was trying to merge the liturgical, evangelical, and charismatic streams.
Okay.
So on any given Sunday, there might be incense, and there was the Eucharist every week. There was, a lot of preaching, contemporary worship music, and
Mm-hmm.
prayer in tongues, and people might be falling out after communion. Uh,
What?
yeah, being hit by the Holy Spirit. So it was extremely interesting. Um,
I'm interested. I just want to say, I mean,
yeah,
not that I'm going to attend, but I
right.
need to see this.
It was cool. So it's called the ICCEC, International Communion of the Charismatic Episcopal Church, or CEC for short.
I have
So
some
it has
homework to do.
had a lot of cool things with it. Unfortunately, it has an all male,
Mm.
extremely socially conservative, all male Episcopal structure. So they've got priests, a rector's council at the local level, um, regional bishops, all the way up to a patriarch. Um, so like I said, socially conservative and very patriarchal.
Mm-hmm.
They've even got it. I mean, when you call someone a patriarch, then you kind of know that patriarchal might be part of it to some
Mm-hmm.
degree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I was helping kind of run that church in as much that a female could be involved. I taught a lot. I was very interested in the liturgical aspects of things and the what I knew as the Roman Catholic grounding of a lot of things, of
Mm-hmm.
the way they approach communion, of the liturgy. It was all, it had these Roman Catholic roots. So I began researching Roman Catholicism, and was deeply falling in love with it. And meanwhile, all this is happening, my marriage is falling apart. So
Mm-hmm.
into church one day, walks the person who ends up being my beloved spouse, Declan.
Mm.
At that point, they were not yet transitioned, and they were still going by their name that was assigned at birth, Diane. And we
Mm-hmm.
became friends. She was living as she at the time. Her marriage was falling apart
Mm.
to her husband, and my marriage, as I said, was kind of a shambles. And we became friends, and we're praying together, praying for each other's families, praying for each other's marriages,
Mm.
doing some leadership together, leading Bible studies and some teaching and things like that. And then something shifted, and we ended up falling in love, and it blew our minds.
Wow.
And Declan's faith background was primarily Southern Baptist, and mine, as I
Mm-hmm.
said, had been increasingly Roman Catholic. And neither of us knew what to do with this situation, because
Mm-hmm.
both of us had thought we were straight,
Mm-hmm.
straight people, and very conservative, and had both of us thought that being in a same-sex relationship was problematic from a Christian viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So the situation at the church wasn't good. We were eventually asked to stop attending, which was painful.
Mm.
And um, Meanwhile, we're still examining. We're still doing daily Bible studies together. We're still leading a small Bible study, and we had to ask God what the heck was going on, because there was so much good fruit in our relationship, and there
Hmm.
was so much love and beauty and truth, and all this good fruit. And we really felt like God had brought us together, despite the appearances, um, as we thought of them. And so we started reading scripture, just started speaking to us differently. And because I'm a
Uh,
writer, I began taking notes about
mhm.
what we were encountering and how there was this new, fresh revelation. And eventually that turned into my first devotional, which was called Where True Love Is. That's
Mhm.
for LGBTQIA plus folks and their allies. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like a systematic theology, examining who God is, what scriptures are, Jesus and the
Mhm.
law, how Jesus interacted with the law, who Jesus condemned and who he didn't. And then once all that's sort of broached, you get to the issues of sexuality and gender, because you need that framework in order to
Mhm.
ask questions about sex and gender. So
Mhm.
that was my first Where True Love Is devotional, and it's all sprung from there.
Wow, that is an awesome story, and talking about how you came out of a rough ride with a marriage. Talk about beauty from ashes, finding your
Mm.
new spouse. Just
Yeah.
that's a wonderful story. Wow. Wow. And to my listeners, if you have not read this devotional, I encourage you to do so. I'm working my way through it right now. And you
Oh,
have an accompaniment to that devotional too, called Sex with God, am I correct?
mhm. Yes, it's a whole series. There's at this point, are there 7 books, I think? So after Where True Love Is came Transfigured, which is for transgender and gender queer people.
Hmm.
Um, and then I did one called I Don't Want Them to Go to Hell, which is for family members of or friends of LGBTQ folks who don't
Mm-hmm.
know what to do with this news when someone comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have one on the topic of abortion, trying to find a third way to talk about it because it's so divisive. And
Mm-hmm.
I increasingly find that God is sort of in the both ands and not the either ors. And so that book is designed to try to change conversation and break down barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And after that was A Theology of Desire, which explores God's hunger for us and our hunger for God.
Mm-hmm.
And that book was originally going to be part of Sex with God, because the topics are kind of interconnected. And I decided to split them because they're interconnected, but they're also separate. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so Sex with God was one of the more recent ones.
That's awesome. I mean, gosh, talk about an anthology of amazing references that we've got with what you're doing, and I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing, because our community here in Santa Cruz, we have a lot of LGBTQ members, both that attend services in the before times, before
Right.
the pandemic was a
Pre
thing, and
Panini.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and then we also have a lot of people that observe online that are in the LGBTQ community, and I mean, this is some wholesome stuff, and I wish there were more people doing this work. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much
Mm.
for what you're doing, and I hope that you're not hanging up your hat anytime soon. Like, I hope that there's some more wonderful words coming our way from you. Do you have any more writing projects, or maybe not writing
Oh,
projects? Are you stepping out to do
absolutely.
something new, or?
Well, I should alert your people to the Where True Love Is community, especially on Facebook. It's extremely well. Declan is in charge of all the social media stuff, and he does an
Mm-hmm.
amazing job with the Where True Love Is community on Facebook, with tons of affirming messaging, informational, but lots of encouragement and affirmation.
They do a
But
great
also
job
on
with that.
Twitter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Um, as far as my side of things, so we have this kind of team approach where I write the books and then Declan gets the messaging out.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he's a great encourager and prayer warrior, and
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
we're like a tag team. But after Sex with God, I wrote the first of my deconstruction. It's going to be a series ultimately, but the first of my deconstruction books, Deconstruction Devotional, because I realized that, well, so many of us are kind of deconstructing our faith. And I
Sure.
realized that all of my books have been deconstruction books, right? Deconstructing
Mm-hmm.
particular
Mm-hmm.
topics.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to address deconstruction itself because there's a lot of people are in pain or concerned. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this past year, we've had a whole shedding of things. We haven't had a church community. Um, there's been a lot of shifting and it's led to additional levels of deconstruction. So I wrote the first book and it's kind of an encouragement.
Mm.
It's not so much for people who are deep into deconstruction and feeling comfortable with it, but like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning the Bible. Does that mean I don't believe in God? What does it, is God going to be
Mm-hmm.
mad? What do I do? So that's been my most recent book.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one I'm working on now is for transitioning couples, for people in relationships who one of them is transitioning, um, and trying to help people be able to come together and work through that because it's sort of a team sport ultimately when you're in relationship. So that's
What a
the
wonderful,
latest.
yeah, what a wonderful endeavor that is. And the, you know, oh my gosh, man, that's just some wholesome resources for
Mm,
folks right there coming our way. And when you get done with the deconstruction devotional, please send that my way. I've been on
oh,
that
I will do
journey.
that.
I, would have loved to have had that as a resource. And I know
Yeah.
so many people that are going through the same thing, or I meet people constantly that are, having these moments of questioning about spirituality and their faith. And yeah, that's something that I believe the world needs right now. So please keep us informed. In
That one is
my
actually out, Christopher. It's
Oh, it's
out.
out. I thought you said
It's
it was
out.
coming.
It's
Okay, what
the
is this one
trans one is
called?
coming. Sorry, I just keep pumping them out.
No, no,
I'm
no.
constantly writing. It's what I do full time. So, and God's
Can't keep
always
track of all
saying,
the good stuff.
okay, this is what people need, and this is what's happening in the world. So, it's called Sleep or Awake.
Oh, okay. All right. So Sleeper Awake, you will be getting an Amazon purchase from me today. So
Oh,
I'm gonna be checking that out.
you're awesome.
I
I hope
need
you
that
like
right
it.
now. I'm sure I will. I'm in the middle of the deconstruction process. I think I've been doing it, for about a year or so,
Mm,
kind of on my own, and I've been leading my congregants, on this journey too. I've kind of been dropping breadcrumbs about where I'm
right.
landing spiritually for them, and just kind of made some official announcements about where I'm at right now. But
It's
to
tricky when you're
have
clergy.
it is. It really is. I have been reading accounts of people that are closeted agnostics or
Mm,
atheists or in the middle of just deconstruction in some way, shape, or form, and still clergy because they align with the ethical and moral teachings, or maybe they are spiritual, but they don't necessarily align with spirituality the way that Western Christianity presents it anymore. And they're just struggling to,
yeah,
have these conversations with their congregants because they're scared they're going to lose their jobs and their livelihood.
absolutely.
And that's an understandable thing. But to have someone that is, walking with you through that process in a book and in a devotional, that would just be such an encouragement. So,
That was the
y-
goal.
yeah, yeah, I cannot wait to read it. And I
Mm,
encourage my viewers to do the same thing, to check out your work, to follow you on Facebook, where True Love
mm,
is, the
yeah.
community on Facebook. I follow it. It's wonderful. All of the posts are an encouragement for me
Mm.
and just such a delight to see. So I encourage all of the revved up Theolitics fan base, go out, click that subscribe button, that like button. You're not going to regret it. It's amazing. And Suzanne, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today and tell us about your work. And hopefully this won't be the last time we have you on. Like, as these new works emerge, we'd love to have you back if you're willing.
Well, I'll ping you when the next book comes out.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, y'all, until next week, no justice, no peace. We'll see you around. Love y'all. And now,
May the revolution of Jesus go with you wherever it may send you. May it guide you in healing this wasteland and protect you through the storm. May it lead you through this world seeking the justice it demands for you and for others. And may it bring you home preparing to continue love's mission beyond your doors. Grace and justice to you.